Welcome to Perspectives in Focus. My name is Rona Harper. I'm here with my guest today, Joe Hamilton, who wrote the book For the Love of Scott. And Joe is back with us again to tell us a little bit more and get to more detail about the book and how we can work with it. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You wrote this book, For the Love of Scott. Can you tell us just a little bit about it and the reason why you wrote the book?
I wrote the book For the Love of Scott. The title actually came from a shriek that my mother made at the hospital once they told us what they'd done to him. And she just sort of shrieked out, "Oh, for the love of Scott, how could this have happened?" And it kind of just stayed in my head. I didn't really know why. But then when I was thinking I need a title for this book, it came back into my head, and I thought that's the title. So, and it's basically about a promise that I made to my little brother, Scott Hamilton, when he was dying in the hospital. It was one of the last things he ever said to me was, "Please tell people what they've done to me. You have to tell them what they've done." And so it's his story from birth to his death.
And how long ago did he die?
He died on December 30th in 1983.
Wow. So during the time frame from when he died to when you just wrote the book, why did it take you so much time, and do you think it's still relevant right now?
That's a great question. I actually attempted to write Scott's story several times over the years. I wanted to keep my promise, and I felt like, I wanted to do it for my parents as well. And I thought it'd be cathartic for me. I thought it would help me maybe heal from this, from the whole tragedy. And I would try. I started probably 6 months after he died. I started the first I sat down started the first transcript, and I think I wrote about 10 pages, and then I just could not do any more. And then maybe a couple years later, I tried again, and I've actually found, I think, 4 or 5 different notebooks that I'd actually started writing the story on when I sat down this time to write it. And I began this on Christmas Eve. I got a new laptop for Christmas, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm kind of out of excuses now. I'm going to have to really do this. So I did. I sat down on Christmas Eve in 2010 and started writing. And lots of times in between I stopped again, but by the grace of God and a lot of determination, I finally was able to finish it. I finished it in, I guess the final write was done in August of 2011, and actually the publisher called me on Scott's birthday. It was published on his birthday.
Wow.
So we were able to call my parents, and we did a 3-way conversation, and the publisher told my folks that she had something to share with us, and she said, "I want you to know that as of today, Joe and Scott are published authors." And my dad got very emotional, and my mom said, "Oh, great, now we have something positive to replace the bad with." So that was pretty cool.
Did you have any pushback with the reception of the book? Were people open to reading it, to hearing your story?
I'm from a big family,
Okay.
so I had a lot of relatives that were anxiously awaiting, because my mom was spreading the word in our little community that Joe's writing a book, and so they were sort of anticipating it. But I actually, my English teacher from junior high, who had told me years ago that she thought I should be a writer, and she said, "If you don't become a writer, you're going to miss your calling." Well, you're 14, 15, and
Yes.
you're not even thinking that you're going to listen to your English teacher. But she really believed in me, so she was one of the first people that I sent the rough draft to, and I thought, if she likes it, then maybe I'll keep going. So I called her and I said, "I'd like to send you this, and if you don't think it's any good, tell me and I'll just shove it back in the drawer." And so she read it and called me that night and said, "If you don't finish this, I will give you an F." And I'm like, thank God you're not still teaching me. But so I went ahead and did it, and then she helped me do some editing with it, and So when it was published, she was, I mean, she has been my biggest cheerleader. She's managed to get it around. She shopped it around all over my small town. I think she took it to the library and the high school, and you know, so that part's been wonderful. And I did wonder, because there's some pretty graphic details in the book, and my family and I talked about that before before I sent it on to be published. Do we really want to share all the nitty-gritty? And my middle brother Mike said, well, you know, Scott said tell a story. He didn't say just tell the good parts. You got to tell the whole thing, because you know, that's what it's about. And people need to know how much he suffered and what happened to him, and that didn't just mean the happy stuff. So I didn't know what to expect. It was, you know, you're kind of vulnerable. You've had these thoughts and these words in your life for a couple years, and then all of a sudden you release it, and it goes out into the, you know, etheric world and into the universe, and you kind of hold your breath going, oh my God, what have I done? But I can tell you, just from the responses, I've gotten, you know, hundreds of letters and emails, and it's just been truly overwhelming. A lot of the young kids I've heard from, the parents or the older generation, I get very polite letters from them saying, I read your book, it was a great book, thank you for telling Scott's story, and that's it. But the young kids, you know, my mom is freely giving my phone number out to anybody that wants it, and so I get phone calls all different times of the day and night from, and mostly it's been young kids, because if you think about it, Scott was diagnosed in the summer of '83 between his junior and senior year of college, and he never went back his last year, and the next thing you know, these kids are being told to come to this funeral. So a lot of them didn't know what had happened. You know, the last time they saw him, he was this strapping, athletic, you know, ball player, and the next thing they know, they're going to his funeral. So I think it answered a lot of questions. They never knew what happened. He wouldn't tell people. He didn't want people to know. He didn't want them to treat him different. So I hope that it did, maybe gave them some closure as well.
Okay. What kind of research did you do to write the book and to actually realize that the specifics of what went wrong with Scott?
Well, that was a really, that was a challenge. I had a really difficult time finding any kind of statistics about cisplatinum or overdoses or medical errors. I was really getting frustrated. I'd contacted a lot of my nursing friends and some friends that were doctors and physicians, and there was nobody that was, you know, forward-coming with any kind of information. It's sort of this taboo subject that they don't want to talk about. But again, it's one of those divine intervention things. I was channel surfing one night, and all of a sudden I was on the Discovery Channel, and this documentary started to play called Chasing Zero, and it was about medical harm done to people, and the narrator and the producer was Dennis Quaid. And I'd read that he had his newborn babies had been overdosed with heparin at a hospital in California, and thankfully they survived, but it was due to a label, the color of a label being the same color as another color of a medication that was laying side by side, and they picked up the wrong one and gave them 1,000 times the dosage they should have been given. But this documentary had all kinds of statistics and organizations and websites and advocacy groups, and ironically, one of the doctors that was being interviewed was from the same facility that overdosed Scott. So talk about a full circle moment. But it was just amazing. So, you know, I was able to go online and I downloaded the video. It's still available. You can go to the internet and see it, or you can contact the Discovery Channel. They'll mail you a free DVD, and they are doing a phenomenal job of educating the public. They've got a second video coming out March 1st, and I think it's called Out of the Danger Zone, which is the follow-up to the first documentary, which it's going to now tell us the progress that's been made and the steps that they've tried to take. It's a humongous undertaking. When you think about the vast number of healthcare facilities nationwide, first of all, they don't have to even report deaths or mistakes.
Right.
There's no law that says we need to know about this. There's no website you can go to, like when you buy a car, how it did on the crash tests or the reliability. There's nothing that you can go to find out how many malpractice suits has this physician or this hospital had. There's nothing there to protect us as consumers. So.
And that is scary because you don't know what you're walking into.
That's exactly right. You don't know what you don't know until it's too late. But I thankfully have found a plethora of organizations that are people like myself and my family who don't want to be victims, who don't want to just feel bad because something horrible happened to our loved one. Instead, we've channeled our energy. I mean, some of us write books, but some other people have started foundations. There's a group called The Empowered Patient, which is also a book. It was written by a woman, Dr. Julia Hallisey, who lost a child after 10 years of fighting for her life. But she had to maneuver the medical system for 10 years, and she's a doctor. But she's written an entire book. She has a website, and again, it's called theempoweredpatient.com. It has, the whole book is about how to stay safe. It's fact sheets, it's journals, it's, there's a little guide that they publish that you can take into the hospital with you, so you can write down your doctor's names, the medication, the shifts, all the information that you might need to know.
That's wonderful, because if you're dealing with that, you don't have the presence of mind to ask these questions or keep track of any of that.
No, you don't. And it also gives you a guide on questions you should be asking if there's a change, like in Scott's case, if there's a change in their physical condition or something's different. You know, it's just amazing. But anyway, there's several, many of these groups out there. And I just found one the other day called the Emily Jerry Foundation, and it's a father who lost his 2-year-old little girl because a pharmacist mixed up her medication wrong. But after he was able to process her loss, the pharmacist was actually brought up on charges and spent 6 months in jail, which is unheard of.
Okay.
But no, because, you know, it's labeled malpractice. And initially what happens is because of the fear, everybody clams up. There's no communication. So the very people that are involved in the mistake should be the ones trying to help us find a solution to this problem, but they're not talking, and they won't talk. So we have to create a more friendly environment for them so we can use their mistakes to you know, have a positive impact. But this gentleman, his name is Christopher Jerry, and he travels around now. He teamed up with the physician, became friends, forgave him, and now they team up and they travel all over the country, and they do lectures at medical schools and seminars. They went to a pharmacy school and talked to the pharmacists. So, and Scott's little book, it's made the rounds. It's being read by 2 nursing schools that I know of that are making it mandatory reading for their student nurses.
That's wonderful.
To me, that is the biggest gift that I could have ever hoped for. I had one of the nurses tell me that she was at Scott's funeral, unbeknown to me, and she evidently came back to the house after the funeral, and she was listening to my mother tell someone what had happened to Scott, because nobody knew. My family didn't tell anybody. Scott didn't tell anybody. All they knew is he went to the hospital, he died.